Hi, Cupid's crew. Welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Happily Ever After, where Missy and I dive deep into rom-coms, sharing what we love about them, what we might have wanted to see differently, and how the movies themselves can mesh in with our everyday lives. Today we're talking about Missy's favorite rom-com, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, which is very timely with the Knicks winning the NBA Finals. And if you haven't seen the movie, fear not, because I have a quick little synopsis. How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days is a romantic comedy set in New York City, starring Kate Hudson, who plays Andie Anderson. And she's a magazine writer, and she's also co-starring with Matthew McConaughey as Ben Barry, an advertising executive who starts a relationship with each other with conflicting ulterior motives. And Kate Hudson's character wants to drive Matthew McConaughey's character away for an article that she's writing, while Matthew McConaughey's character bets that he can make any woman fall in love with him in 10 days. So this leads to a comedic chaos as they try to achieve their goals while developing real feelings. And so this film follows their battle of wills, if you will, and they both try to manipulate the other, but they result in obviously a lot of flirting and outrageous romantic fireworks. So with that being said, we have an honorable guest today, a very dear friend and colleague of mine who I call the real life Andie Anderson, Jenna Ryu. And I'm so grateful for her presence today.
I'm a lifestyle writer, most recently at Self Magazine, but I also have bylines writing about relationships, friendships, and fitness and health for Washington Post, Outside Magazine, and USA Today.
Wait, you literally are Andie Anderson.
That's what I
Like when they introduce, what's her name? When the boss introduces the three characters to the two marketing execs and is like, this is our how-to girl, Andie Anderson. This is Michelle, who writes on health and fitness and blah, blah. You are literally all of them in one.
Oh my God, that's so sweet. I'd like to hope so. I mean, we can get into it. Like when I was rewatching it, my boyfriend was like, is this what it's like? And I was like, absolutely not. I wish.
Wait, I'm so happy you said that. First question. Is that what it's like?
So, like, there are elements to it. I feel like I don't know. I will say the camaraderie, like Andie's relationship to everyone in the office, her fellow writers, is pretty accurate, at least in my experience. Like everyone kind of has a different role. So like I would be the kind of, I guess in this sense, the how-to girl when it comes to relationships and friendships. But we also had that for like health. We had one for fitness. We had one for nutrition. So in that sense, it's kind of similar. Same with the pitch meeting. I think my biggest grievance is in the movie, it's kind of like these people are just saying their ideas that are based on personal experience, where it's not like super relatable or applicable or has any specific timely relevance to what's going on in the world. So it's like, okay, like that's a great idea. Your dating life sucks. Like, let's write that. That would never fly. We would need some sort of like hook as to like, okay, are people on Love Island talking about this? Is there like search volume? So it's unrealistic in the sense of like, oh, just because I'm going through something crazy, that means like everyone's gonna want to read about it, unless you're like a Carrie Bradshaw-esque, like you have your own platform and such. But that was like probably my biggest not issue, that's like the wrong word, but that's like the first thing I noticed where I was like, I wish our pitch meetings went this smoothly.
Wait, that's a question I had, Jenna, was when you first started, how was it different from then to now in terms of pitching stories and getting kind of to cover the stories that you get to cover today?
I will say I feel like back then there was more of a like I really want to get personal about my life, and that's how I get into the lifestyle space. So a lot of people were willing to be more vulnerable and like talk very explicitly about their personal dating lives and like how it's gone wrong and like kind of putting themselves out there. I think just with the digital footprint now, a lot of writers and editors are kind of cognizant of like, okay, don't put everything out there other than the whole like, defamation concern. It's just like everything is online now. Like there really isn't print anymore. It's a lot of digital. So for me, at least, I found that in my pitching process, I do try to insert my personal life a little bit less than they do in the movie. But in terms of pitching, I think friendship has honestly taken the forefront. I feel like in the 2000s it was all about like going on dates and romance and sex, and we've noticed at least at the like not even Self, like even at Washington Post, that a lot of people want to know about friendships, how to kind of maximize and like do friendship dates or ideas to hang out. So it's not just like or it's not just romantic love anymore. It's, I think, platonic that people are also very interested in when it comes to like the lifestyle space.
Do you think COVID had a lot to do with that?
I think so. I'm trying to think like what played into it. I think COVID definitely. I know a lot of people were obviously breaking up or divorcing when they were spending like that much time together without kind of being able to communicate or have like other social support networks. I also think the media's played a huge role. There are a lot of movies and shows now that are focused so much on friendship that people really like. So like Wicked is a huge one that comes to mind for me. I'm trying to think of other examples.
That's so true. I do think that more and more PR seems to be these days around the friendships in the TV show. I just finished watching Shrinking, the last season, and it's all about friendships.
I think people are just acknowledging that there are a lot of, different types of relationships. And as cliche as it sounds, I think a lot of people are also becoming jaded by the dating experience where they're kind of discovering, like, oh, you can get fulfillment and, like, the type of, love and fulfillment from your platonic relationships that you would expect, like, only a boyfriend can do. So I think because of that, people are, like, leaning on friendships. Therefore, when they lean on their friendships and they have really strong ones, it also kind of strengthens their standards for what they're looking for romantically. So it's all, like, kind of intertwined, I guess, is what I want to say. But I think that's, like, mostly how it's been changing, where like it's not so much like lifestyle isn't so much like dating and sex anymore.
I have a quick question, Missy. I don't know if you have a question, but Jenna, when I did some, research on you, it says that you like to watch horror movies. Is that your genre of choice?
Yeah, I just watched Obsession, and I usually watch horror movies by myself, like in the movie theater, because like people won't go with me, and it's too annoying.
That's a thing these days, going to the theaters by yourself.
I love it. I hate the logistics of like trying to find someone and then like getting the seats next to each other in time. So, and like it's not even like we're talking during the movie or like hanging out anyways. So I prefer to just like book it myself and sit there. But I do love horror movies. It's like something I've liked, I think, since I was like 12. I used to watch it with my dad sometimes, but I just like...
We're also Korean, Missy, so Korean horror movies can really scare you.
I'm just a scaredy cat. Like, I was born in October, like right near Halloween.
Oh.
All of my birthday parties were Halloween themed, which is why I think I hate Halloween so much. So for me, I am like horror movie, like no clowns, no nothing.
I just like that they make you think. I feel like when you're scared, like you're thinking of even if they're like negative thoughts. So I feel like it's just like a very stimulating type of genre.
So then do you watch rom-coms, would you say? And when's the last time you watched How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days?
I rewatched it, I'm trying to think. It was right before I went to Korea, so mid-May.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember why. Oh, I was like seeing clips of it coming up. I think like with basketball, like again, the Knicks coming up, like it was that scene where she makes him get soda like 5 times during the like really important point. I was like, wait, I need to rewatch this, and it was much funnier than I remember. But that's the most recent one I think I watched. Rom-com, maybe it's like a hot take. It's not my favorite genre. Only because I think a lot of them are like really cliche, or they lean on like very tired tropes that I don't find realistic, but I will acknowledge that some people like the mindlessness of it. I also rewatched The Notebook recently, and like that's another one I think when I was younger I was like, I don't really get it, like they're fighting all the time, like it's not that admirable. But now that I rewatch it, I think it's just like so much bigger than like the story of like these two people specifically. And like their dynamic. It's more like just the time passing and like how much they changed in between, and of course the ending. So I think I have a newfound appreciation for The Notebook.
So, kind of going back to where you were talking about relationships and how people are kind of focusing on those platonic relationships instead of those romantic relationships, I feel like the 2000s and maybe the early 90s, our media perspective was more towards the romantic side. I mean, we had Sex in the City blowing up, where literally Carrie Bradshaw and her friends were talking about their sexploits all over, the show. And then we had a bunch of rom-coms. Like, everyone was more, I wanted not sex positive, but sex was more spoken about, kind of more, and there wasn't any, like, I guess, barriers per se. And dating was more natural. It wasn't like, oh, let me swipe left or swipe right. Like, everything was more organic. So do you think watching this movie now, 2026, I know for me, I was irked by, I was like, oh, this doesn't really make sense. A lot of this wouldn't play out for 2026. As someone who writes about relationships, how did you feel about that? Like, did you think it was accurate? What things would change for today? Like, I know, for example, calling someone whiny and, like, talking about everything you ate that day or things like that would be, I guess, more common, but maybe seeing someone's story 20 times or checking to make sure, your Snapchat streak is still, what I mean? Like, I'm trying to think of things that would relate that we could kind of modernize for 2026 for this movie.
I'm trying to think. Sorry, just to clarify, do you mean like the parts where she was trying to turn him off, like that part?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I found this part confusing. So is it that she was basically doing all the things that she thought, because I thought this all started because her friend was doing all the things that she thought was wrong or that men would not be happy to. So I guess she was, but this is also a part where I wanted to talk about in terms of friendships. There was kind of a toxic thing here where Kate was kind of playing poorly on her friend for doing all the wrong things. And so this is a part that I'd love to just hear more about. And as you're answering Missy's question, like, she was purposely doing all the things that women like her friend were doing wrong. But I guess that's going back to Missy's question, is that what we do even in 2026?
I definitely think I've written about this a lot, and I just started a Substack kind of about my first post was kind of about the modern of like how with dating apps we're really trying to use data to like forcibly foster connection and make dating a lot easier and less risky. I think it's interesting with the like how Andie was purposely saying like, you're doing all these things wrong, I'm gonna prove it by making this man like want to run away from me in 10 days. But it's interesting because her friend in the end, like the guy comes back and he like, despite doing all the wrong things, like he still wanted her. And I think that's like the interesting part is we tend to follow all these rules, but and like I guess our modern day ones, as we were talking about with social media, is like, don't like view their story too quickly, don't respond to their text like immediately. If they ask to hang out, like wait a couple, like if they take 2 hours to respond, like you take 5 hours to respond. It's kind of, we've gamified it a little bit. And I think in the way that Andie's doing it with I don't know, like trying to like move in really fast, or like getting the dog, or like making like a
that
big
was
of them.
That was crazy to me. Those two things were just crazy. Like, you've only known this man for less than 10 days. First of all, what animal store, pet store would let you get a dog that quickly and like not do a background check? I mean, I know you, Paula, you and I are dog people. I rescued my dog. Like, you have to answer questions.
I don't even know what happened to the dog in the end. It's just like that. I completely forgot.
She cared more about the love fern than she cared about the dog.
True.
And then the baby book thing, that was creepy AF.
Yeah. We wrote for Self, I think it was pegged to heated rivalry, but kind of just the idea of like, why does nobody yearn anymore? And like, there was a gender gap where it's like, obviously women want men to like put in the effort, and like, maybe not to that extent with the baby stuff, but they do want the man to like be forward and like do all these gestures, and like it's romantic when they like say what's on their mind, plan the date, initiate, are interested. Whereas with women, there's obviously the stigma that Kate Hudson embodies, which is like, oh, they're clingy, they're needy, like they're crazy, and like therefore the more they want me, the less I want them. And I do think a lot of it is kind of just for women. Typically in heterosexual relationships, you do have to play the hard to get. That's something just in society, like even in 2000s, even now it's part of our society, which is why people are kind of playing games when they're dating instead of being upfront. So I think it's interesting how technology has changed it a little bit, and like with apps now there's visibility. So we have, for example, like read receipts, so you know like when someone is online or like read your message, which is why it's like, oh, I don't want to read the message immediately, or maybe passive aggressively you want to show it, or there's like active statuses that show like when someone's online. So I think honestly, the dating scene is not too different from the movie. It's more just we have so much access to information as like what the other person is doing and what they're potentially thinking, which we didn't have insight back then when like people had flip phones or like, you couldn't like
Yeah.
have access to all this information.
I feel like the whole plot where she goes to the bar to find someone, she's like, I'm going to hook them tonight and then I'm going to change the script or flip the switch. You could technically now I'm just going to sit in my living room and swipe with my girlfriends and then I'm going to change the, like, flip the switch. You know what I mean? Like, do people even go out to bars anymore with their friends to go meet people? Or is it really just, oh, let me schedule a date via this dating app?
I think it's a mix. I think people are definitely trying. I've heard a lot of complaints about people being like, there's no one on the apps. Like, I want to meet somebody in person. And we're kind of seeing it with like sports bars right now. There's a lot that are catering it to like, these are for singles and kind of using that as an opportunity to foster the in person connections. Or even like with run clubs, with like indoor climbing gyms. I think people are like yearning for that like in person opportunity to organically meet someone because the typical meet cutes or like the workplace stuff like isn't really happening or isn't really realistic now. So I think people are looking for the in-person stuff. It's just harder because it's so much easier on the app when like you can swipe on like 15 people in like 5 seconds, and then get a date, and that's way less effort than like, okay, mustering up the courage to like talk to that person at the bar who's with her friends, and will she say yes, will she say no, I don't know, and then like if she says no, you like kind of have to deal with that rejection face on, whereas on a dating app it's like, okay, you can just move on, you can unmatch, you don't even have to have a conversation. So it's just way more convenient, which is why I think people are like, why not when it comes to it. But I do think people want the in-person kind of thing that we're seeing in rom-coms.
Jenna, I have a question for you because you actually have more in common with Andie than I even thought, because in the end she wants to go to DC and we met at Georgetown. We met in DC. So I was curious more so about how much of you being in New York do you think influences your stories and the way that you write, versus do you think that more people that you interview are actually outside of New York, and how does that kind of play into the universal element versus sticking to so much of the New York City life?
Honestly, I think like, for context, I was in DC first and then moved to New York, so kind of the opposite. I think New York is like the single spot when it comes for at least my type of writing. My experience was in that DC, like New York, it's just like everything you can walk by foot. There's so many people who are moving here for work, but there's also so many people leaving. So it's like truly just a mix of like people coming in and going from all different types of backgrounds. And I think a lot of New Yorkers, despite the stereotype, are a lot more approachable to new, or like more spontaneous when it comes to like meet cutes or like getting to know new people. Like I remember when I first moved here, a lot of my friends that I have today 4 years later are people I met like on Facebook when I was looking for a roommate, and it was like it was kind of just like a why not, like for the plot type of thing. So I feel like people have that attitude when it comes to dating. It's like, why not for the plot, whereas like in the suburbs you kind of have to get into a car, and like the radius is like a little different, and it's not as like effortless of an experience. And I felt like in DC a lot of people were coupled, it like felt very coupley, whereas I feel like New York feels very single, and I think a lot of people have different perspectives when it comes to like relationships and marriage and divorce here. So talking to people here, I think, has been in my work has been a lot more, I've gotten like more expansive responses and reactions when it comes to like dating apps or like certain like reality TV shows, or I'm trying to think, like certain red flags. Like I feel like the standards here when people are dating are very interesting than when I was in DC. So I don't know. I personally think this is
That's Missy's dog, but
I figured.
Jenna, thank you so much. I don't want to keep you for too long. I know you're super busy, but if you do have to go, please let us know. You can hop off whenever.
I'm flexible till 4, so no worries.
Well, I guess my question to you is when you watch this movie, and then how applicable do you think it was in terms of 2026? Do you think that you would see a rom-com like this today where we get to talk about a reporter, or do you think that rom-coms today have such a different it's a very different vibe. Like I just watched Office Romance with J Lo
Oh,
and
I
Brett,
haven't watched that one.
and it's
Me
just
neither.
I don't know about the rom-coms, but my hot take for the ones that come out these days is that it focuses less in terms of the individual's person's life than the old ones did, if that makes sense. Do you think that we would see a rom-com of How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days in like today?
I'm trying to think. I could see it with like a PR girly. I feel like I'm a little like more cynical only because ethically I feel like I've been ingrained to like I don't ever see a foresee a situation where I could write like the nitty gritty details of a guy I was dating and like purposely manipulating to an extent and then writing about for a national publication and like not getting sued or like in trouble or anything. Like I feel like it would just be a legal nightmare. So for me when I see those things, I'm like I like even if you change the names, I'm like I don't know how that would work and like at that point you'd be changing so many details like it doesn't even feel real. But I have noticed obviously there are so many rom-coms or like movies in general where the main character is a writer. Like Devil Wears Prada, the one that just came
Yeah.
out, like she's a writer. I'm trying there was literally another one, I'm blanking.
Have you
Wait,
ever?
I'm so happy you said that. I have a spill the popcorn really quickly.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So I noticed that in our movie that we're talking about today, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, the main character, Andie Anderson, is a journalist. And in Devil Wears Prada, Andy Sachs is a journalist.
Oh, yeah. Huh.
We have
Is Andy like a common journalist name?
I don't think so, but I feel like the whole like I feel like both characters it's like they're kind of like spunky. They have like a little edge to them and I feel like Andy is like one of those names where it's like it's like quick,
right.
it's catchy and it's not like Andrea, or something. I don't know. I feel like it kind of adds like the writer spunk of like, oh, like they have a little edge to them. So I do see it, and I feel like a lot of the writers that like I follow on Substack, for example, have like pretty clicky names, and like Andy, I think Andy's a great one.
Yeah, I love the co-ed names, but
I love the alliteration of Andy Anderson and Ben Barry.
I
Oh,
love
I
both
forgot
of
about
them
his.
and Anderson. Wait, sorry, Jenna. I had a question in terms of have you ever gotten so far deep into a story only to realize that you wanted out?
Yeah, I've definitely had a few. I'm trying to think. There's one off the top of my head that we didn't end up killing, so like I just had to stick with it. I'm trying to.
I mean, you don't have to tell us about it. I mean, I'm just curious more so how important is it for you to have that relationship with your editor to say, I'm not feeling it? Or like, when in your heart do you say something?
Okay, so I feel like in the movie she kind of dropped the ball like it was like what 2 weeks before or like 2 days before they're supposed to publish or something, which like my editor would be pissed if like we had something that was going in print and I was like actually like I don't really feel like writing it anymore. Like I don't resonate with, especially if I pitched it.
Yeah.
But I've definitely had stories where like it's kind of hard because it's like on one hand you do want to stick with it a little bit and like you don't want to give up too early without like really putting in your all, but then the risk when you do that of course as time goes by and then like more people are depending on you, so it's kind of like should I just give an answer earlier? And I've had situations where I've really had to like sit down, look at everything, and like the questions I ask myself is like one, is this worth it? Like there are some stories where if I keep pushing it back, it's just not going to be like timely or relevant anymore. So they're really, it's just not worth the effort. The other is just like how like there are some stories that require like a lot of fact check, a lot of like legal has to look into it, and just a lot of resources. So like if in the back of my head I don't think it's worth spending everyone's time on this story where I'm not 100% confident on like how it's going to be, I could understand killing it. But for me personally, I do try to be transparent with my editor about like these are the concerns I'm having, whether it's like I cannot get people to talk to me on the record, or like I just like don't think this has cultural relevance anymore, and like my opinion has changed. And usually I feel like my editor will try to work around, like see my thought process and will finesse the angle a little. So even if it's not the same take I pitched, like in Andie's case, I'm sure there would have been a way, instead of just killing it, she could rephrase or like have a different takeaway at the end, and that's a way that's like usually I think how we go about it. But I'm not sure if I've ever had a story where I put like months into it and then I was like, actually, like, no, this isn't working.
That's, yeah, because her, I mean, 10 days, do we think it's realistic to even get a guy or anyone, any partner to fall in love in 10 days?
Like my issues, like I could probably get like random like now with Hinge or Tinder or whatever, it's probably so much easier to like, okay, like let me find like the one person. But
Yeah.
I'm like, to get them to hang out with you for 10 days, like straight, I don't know. I feel like
Unless it's a national pandemic and you're forced to be together.
yeah, or I don't know. I think 10 is not like the craziest number, but I'm like the people I would attract who would like after like exhibiting weird behaviors on day 2, I'm like who would stay the full 10 days like that? I don't know. Or like getting someone to stick.
Yeah.
Like
Back to the movie, they both had some really odd behaviors for 10 days that I was like, red flag, red flag. I would not want to be with either of them after this. I mean, first of all, when the biggest red flag for me that was so untrue was when she was like, I called your mom and she
Yeah.
helped me with the baby book. Like, you don't meet the parents until like 6 months down the line, but like we're not even 10 days in and she's talking to mom or calling
I
mom
know, and
up.
she
Like,
like went
that's
to Staten Island within like 10 days of not even dating. It was 10 days of knowing each other, which is like
right?
also the other factor, but
Crazy.
yeah.
I love how you mentioned before earlier about yearning
Yeah.
and how we have this whole like yearning thing going on, especially for men. I loved the scene where he cooked her dinner and had the game on the screen. Like he was like made it all romantic. Like that was very yearning
When
to
she
me.
said she doesn't eat me, that one.
But I have to tell you, that was honestly kind of real. Like, what did they? Normally, you would discuss that with your partner. Even on dating apps now, you can say if you're like a vegetarian or vegan or don't eat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so it made sense, but like it didn't make sense because he was so cute, and I just loved all the effort that he put into it.
I know. I will say I feel like in the 2000s people were less like I feel like now like everyone has an allergy or like a some type of intolerance, and like
Yeah.
I don't think it was as mainstream. But I agree. Like I guess it would have been easier to be like, "Oh, I'm making this. Like, is that okay with you?" Or to preface in case like what if they are allergic to something. But I do like the effort. I don't know. I think even in modern dating, like that is one of the sweetest dates, doing like a homemade dinner, like game on, because that's something that they both shared an interest in. And it's so much more personal than like just going to a random bar or like just doing drinks somewhere. So I do like how personal, and I do like basketball, like because they were both so into it, was kind of like the hook for all of their dates.
One thing we always talk about, Jenna, is if you could change one thing about the movie, what would it be? So, what would you change about the movie? For me, it's usually always diversity. Like I always say, there could have been more diverse characters, but I think I'm interested to hear what you would change.
I'm gonna need a second. I'm like trying to think back to the movie.
Yeah, Missy, what would you change, Missy, for your favorite rom-com?
I would not change a single thing about this rom-com. It is perfect. It is a 10 out of 10. It is a diamond. It is... I can't even begin to put into words how much I love this rom-com. I can rewatch it and never get tired of it. It is just the most perfect amount of rom and com, and Kate Hudson and Matthew McConaughey have such great chemistry together. I mean, I can't.
Watch it like every year, Missy. Sorry.
Probably like once a month.
No, stop.
It's my emotional support movie.
Oh my gosh, I love that for you. I don't know if I have an emotional support movie, but I think the one thing I would change was I think she was so harsh on her friend. Like
Yeah,
she
I was thinking something about Catherine Hahn's character. I feel like they I think like I understood her character, but I feel like they were making like she skewed a little bit too caricature of like the like sobbing in the office. Like it kind of I feel like her whole character was like she's like the pity case and like this is what's like you shouldn't be like blah 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 and like I personally don't think it's like there's a balance to it obviously. Like I don't think it's that bad to like put your heart on the line like in the way that she did. Like I feel like they kind of paint her to be like it's like a really desperate, sad case of like this girl who can't get anybody, but it's like you kind of have to put your heart on the line if you want to get what you want and like you know what you want. So, I don't know. I like feel like they tried to make her character like someone like a warning almost, and I love her character, but maybe everyone loves her character. I
No,
didn't.
I loved her character too. I think it was most relatable for most single women. I didn't think
Yeah, and I
Andie's
think she'll
character was
find
most relatable.
Yeah, and I think I'm blanking on her name, but I think Catherine Hahn's character, like I thought she was pretty relatable. And I think she's gonna find great love. Like she was so funny as a therapist, like she's so sweet, like open minded. I'm like honestly, she deserves everything and I think she'll be fine. I feel like the movie tries to make it sound like Andie got the catch and I'm like, I don't know, I think she's gonna be thriving.
So funny when Matthew McConaughey at the end said, "You owe me $300 or however much it was the session cost," and I said, I literally was thinking about that as soon as she said $300 too. I would have been so mad about that if I found out that this guy's friend was cheating, scamming me of
But
three
to
hundred
be
dollars.
that funny and like slick on the fly is such a talent, and I'm like, that's why I'm like, her character is so like being funny. I feel like is such a rare thing, and I'm like, she is hilarious. She was like the funniest one.
She had a lot of good one-liners that when they came in they were like haha, like when they're all eating and the editor comes by and she's like, I hate when she pops her head up by and then she pops her head by, you know what I mean, like it just
Yeah.
was so cute. And then also the whole couples therapy thing, 10 days, not even 10 days, and you're going to couples therapy, like what?
Yeah. Oh,
Just such a good movie. There's so many good one-liners, and then the whole "You're so vain" duet at the end. My favorite line, I think the most iconic line, is "You can't lose something you never had."
oh, it is such a cute movie. I'm like truly trying to think of things I would change. Like other rom-coms I definitely have, or like shows I definitely have a lot. Like I've been watching like Summer I Turned Pretty,
I
Off
didn't like. Oh, don't even get me started on Off Campus, Jenna. You do not want to go down that rabbit hole.
Campus.
I didn't like how in the beginning in the elevator they said, I know why he broke up with me. It's because I'm fat. And like they're like, you're not fat, because she is not fat. And I think that's
Yeah.
just a common 2000s. I know, Paula, we talked about this when we were talking about Bridget Jones' Diary and some of the other early 2000s movies. Like anyone who wasn't a 00 or a 0 was just considered fat. And it's
Yeah.
now watching it in 2026 when people are more body positive, I would say, it's just crazy to think that that was fat.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I feel like they tried to make her like the loser of the like office or something,
Agreed.
and I just don't think she was at all.
You know what? That is such a good point. I agree with that. I think they did try to make her kind of the loser, maybe the duff,
Yeah, or
the
they
designated.
the whole article was just like, "Oh my God, your life is so sad. Let's write about it so no one ever acts that way." Like, please don't.
But it was great. What was your favorite scene, Paula and Jenna, from the movie? Like,
Yeah.
Paula, we always ask, like, what's your seller? Like, if you had to sell this movie to someone,
What's
what
your
would you give?
elevator pitch for the?
Yeah.
Mine is honestly the whole scene where his friends are coming over for poker night and she's like kind of pulling everything, so she's like blowing his nose, she like brings like weird snacks, like the dog pees, she like starts yelling at him. I thought that whole scene was just like so many funny one-liners, like it was very natural. I don't want to say it was like realistic, but it was like she was going about it in a way that was very like effortless comedy. Um,
You
and
saw her character struggling in real time, too.
yeah, and the guys' reactions, like the friends who are like like they're like kind of scared of her, but they like obviously don't want to be there anymore. Like I thought that was all super funny. So that's like the scene I think that really gets me. Other than that, the therapy one also is a
Yeah.
classic.
How about you, Paula?
I was going to say the Staten Island when he brings her to meet his family and then they all get along and they play the game of bullshit. But then I also, that made me so mad because he's technically lying to her the entire time. And so I don't know, that wasn't my favorite. It's not my favorite, but I would say the scene at the end where she is speaking the truth and then to Matthew McConaughey's boss, like the end is I think my favorite in this movie where they realize no, they actually do really like each other. And so yeah, that's my favorite. And that's the romantic in me, I think.
I have to tell you, so a couple years ago, I was seeing someone pretty serious, and I was at their house for Christmas, and he was like, for Christmas, we play games, like card games. I'm like, oh, bullshit? And he was like, yeah, we do actually. And I was like, I'm so ready for this. How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days prepared me for this, and I was so ready, and I was like, oh my God, I'm having my Andie Anderson moment.
That's so
Wait,
funny.
is
And
that
I sucked. What?
It is?
Yes!
I did not know that it was a
It's
real
like the
game.
easiest card game to learn, so I like it because it's like everyone knows it's just like whether you're lying or not, but or like bluffing or not. But yeah, it's a real game.
I was literally sitting there and I was like, I'm gonna have my moment, I'm gonna have my moment, and I was horrible. I just kept saying bullshit every time, and they were like, they probably were like, this girl cannot come back for New Year's. I think we need to talk about the most iconic scene from this movie, and I think it's constantly been recreated. And I saw some news on the internet, and you'll probably appreciate this, Jenna, too. The off-campus stars went to the Jimmy Fallon show dressed in the yellow dress and a black suit.
Oh,
Just like Andie Anderson and Ben Barry did for the gala or for the event. The iconic twirl scene with that dress. I mean, come on.
yeah, that dress is iconic. I mean, even to this day, I feel like whenever someone wears a yellow dress, they're like, okay, Andie Anderson. So it is like a really nice hallmark, and it is the cover of the movie, I believe. But
It is the cover, yeah.
yeah, that was a really nice scene.
Jenna, well, we could talk. I mean, I could talk to you forever about just the fact that you are a real life Andie Anderson. But I guess if we can end on your favorite quote, because we always talk about your favorite quote too, or the meet cute moment. We also talk about meet cute moments. So it's your choice. Do you think that the meet cute moment was realistic, or do you have a favorite quote from the movie?
My favorite quote is, you can't lose something you never had.
I think the one that comes to mind for me is I'm gonna butcher the actual quote, but it was like when they were in therapy and she's like, she accuses him of I think being interested in the therapist and the friend. She's like, oh, like you're doing that in front of me, and then he's like, why would I need another woman when like, it was like, why do I need another woman when you have like enough personalities or something like that.
Why do I need another woman? You have enough personalities to make me completely preoccupied.
Yeah, that one. That's my favorite quote,
gosh.
I think.
I told you, I watch this movie every month.
In and out. Jenna, thank you so much for taking the time. We
Yeah, thank you.
couldn't have asked for a better Andie Anderson. So thank you so much.
Aw, you guys, thanks for thinking of me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Of course.
All right, Cupid's crew, if you have any questions for Jenna, please let us know in the comments. And we'll be back next week with another episode. Bye.
Bye, guys. I loved having our real Andie Anderson on.
I know. It's honestly, I thought of her as the real Andie Anderson when I reached out, and I didn't know if she would come on, but I love the fact that she gave such great intel into what it's really like. And I was happy to find out that there are similarities. A lot of differences, but
Totally.
also some similarities.
Yeah. I think we need to talk about the meet cute moment when they meet in the bar.
Yes, and I also want to talk about how there are meet cute moments, not just with our main characters, but I also think that the meet cute moments in terms of like other, like I think the best friend who they, was the pity character sort of, like
Michelle?
yeah, her meet cute moments were also special, and I think
Yeah.
those all make the rom-com what it is. But anyway, yeah. So the bar moment, yeah.
I think it was genuine. I think for the 2000s, yes. I think now, and especially after talking with Jenna, it's maybe not as common to meet someone in a bar because of the dating app culture. You know, you swipe and then you like, oh, I'm wearing a green shirt, or oh, I'll meet you in front of the bar at 6 o'clock. Like the way that they kind of met in a forced organic way, because obviously the other girls picked her out for him. But other than that, I thought it was pretty, you know, accurate.
But dare I say
real.
Fate? I mean, I think that part is realistic too, because even though it was forced on his part, where the two girls in his company picked Andie's character out for him, she had no intel into who he was and still liked him. So that was kind of
he's gorgeous, of course.
Well, I know, but I mean, that happens in real life too, I think, where you scan the room and then you see someone who obviously meets your eye.
Catches your eye.
Yeah, who catches your eye. Okay, so this makes me want to ask you, have we talked about this before, where do you believe in love at first sight? We've talked about this before.
Ooh, I think we have talked about that.
Do you think it was a love at first sight with Andie and Ben?
No, I don't think it was love at first sight.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't love at first sight, but it was definitely, oh, that person's cute at first sight.
I think after the first night, they both definitely felt the vibes and wanted a second date. And then as things progressed and Andie flipped the switch, which, by the way, if I was Ben, promotion or not, I would have ran out the door so much faster and so much earlier after some of the earlier things she did. I mean, girl kicked it up to like DEFCON 5.
If I were him, and honestly, I can't believe that his friends were like slapping him and saying, "No, you need to stay in this to win." If I were one of his friends, I would have been, and I didn't know. Obviously, we didn't know she was, you know. I would have been like, "She's crazy. You have to give up." That's crazy.
Yeah,
she was crazy.
She was crazy. I mean, between Princess Sophia, the Love Burn, moving all her stuff in, the Celine Dion concert. My boyfriend thinks I'm bad. Like, oh my God, I could literally name 10 things.
10 days for all of that? I would have been so...
He needed therapy.
Yeah, I would have been so confused. 10 days? That's not even enough for a freaking plant to grow.
I mean, I agree. It was... And then when she's like, you killed our love bird. And he's like,
that's what I'm saying, the
sleeping. It's just sleeping. I always talk about this, and I want to know if you felt the same way about this. This soundtrack of this movie was amazing.
Oh my gosh.
You didn't listen to the sound. You didn't pick up on it, did you?
The soundtrack didn't come into my ears as much as other movies.
I think just because I've seen it so many times, I just love the soundtrack.
Which moment are we talking about where you like this music?
When they're coming back from Staten Island and they're on the boat. I love that. I think it's the Keith Urban song. Aww. Or no, it Feels Like Home. Feels Like Home. It's that song. It Feels Like Home.
Okay.
Oh, the Keith Urban song is when they're in Staten Island. She's learning to ride the bike. And it's Somebody Like You. Like, I loved those two songs that were... Whenever I hear those songs, I instantly think of How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
Yeah. Can we also talk about how this was set in New York? And I just thought it was very cute. But I also don't think that... I think this movie... Oh, this is the movie where Missy, I think I talked about it in a couple of episodes ago, where some movies I think could have really been set in anywhere. I think this movie, and you let me know, I think it could have been filmed in LA and had an LA setting and not changed anything about the movie.
I agree. I don't think New York was important to this movie.
Yeah.
I agree 1,000%.
Oh, I thought I was going to get some kind of...
No, I agree. Unlike, it's not like The Devil Wears Prada where New York was such a background.
Yeah.
I think New York was not that big of a... It could have been in Chicago. It could have been in Atlanta. It could have been anywhere. I think the characters and the story itself really led this movie.
Yes, and we just talked about Something Borrowed, and that was more of a New York backdrop with Kate Hudson. Same Kate Hudson.
1,000%.
But I think this is my hot take. I don't know if How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days makes my top 10.
I don't know if we can continue this podcast together. I'm breaking up with you.
No.
What? I can't. I'm bullshit. I'm calling bullshit.
But
I call bullshit.
I don't know if it makes my top 10. And I don't know.
You know what? You are entitled to your opinion. I didn't see why you liked Something Borrowed, so I get it. We're allowed to have our opinions.
I think it's because rom-coms that really do it for me are ones where there's a bigger emphasis on setting. I don't know why.
So I feel like the way that you feel about setting is how I feel about soundtrack.
Yes.
And music.
Yes, probably. I like the backdrop. I like knowing where the scenes, I like the drone and, you know, where, I don't know.
I feel like you like the cinematography of it all.
Yes. Even if it's a rom-com, I want to know how it feels to be in this city, which is why when we talk about the Italian rom-com movie in a couple of weeks, the new one that just came out, you're going to love it because it has such a good, there are these little scenes on the farm in Italy. And I don't know, that one probably, not going to lie, is probably higher on the list than How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
Look, I respect your opinion. Do I agree with it? No, but I respect it. I just need to talk about this really quickly before we go. The fact that she brings, and I know we talked about it with Jenna, the whole dog adopting thing, how she got the dog. The fact that she named the dog Kroll, which is what she wanted to name his penis, was just so iconic.
I wonder if that was a writer or if that was improv too. If that was improv.
I want to know if a writer was like, oh my God, I went on a date with this girl and she named my, you know what I mean? Like you said, or was it just an improv thing between Kate Hudson and Matthew McConaughey? Like you said, this is why we need a writer on our podcast to be able to talk about those moments, or even an actor or an actress who can talk about what it's like to actually have improv moments live while working. And
yeah, and if you have any more Spill the Popcorns, I feel as if you would have so many for this movie because it's your favorite.
I mean, I feel like the only other one I could think of off the top of my head is this isn't the only movie that they've starred in as a couple, Matthew McConaughey and Kate Hudson.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
They also were in Fool's Gold together.
Yeah. We didn't even talk about the ratings. What were the ratings?
It got a 42%.
How do you feel about that?
I mean, in Missy's Rotten Tomatoes head, there is no Rotten Tomatoes. I mean, look, like I said, there are certain things I do not like. Like, I don't like how they made Catherine Hahn's character the designated ugly fat friend, the Duff, if that's even a thing. But other than that, I thought everything else was perfect.
The Duff movie came to my mind.
That's why I said it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just love how it pushed boundaries and their chemistry was just so cute. Not even the chemistry between Kate Hudson and Matthew McConaughey, the chemistry between the friend groups too. Like the bros, how they had such a good, friendship, and then even the girls.
Yeah, it was a very cats versus dogs, boys versus girls kind of bigger theme, and which I enjoy. I mean,
I just think sorry.
Oh no, I was gonna say there are a lot of movies. I mean, off campus that you just love. It's also very boys, girls. The casts perfectly outbalance each other.
Paul, I just want to say that ever since I've had my off-campus episode, you have mentioned off-campus more than I've mentioned off-campus.
Because I've realized so much that off-campus probably, you know it more than I do probably, but they purposely put so many of these classic rom-coms into off-campus's plot, and it's less about me being obsessed with off-campus. It's more so off-campus just obsessed over all these rom-coms that I already obsessed over first. So I was first.
You were first. I will say, and I know I asked my viewers this at the end of the episode, what movie they want to see in season 2 as a nod, and I would love to see How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days nodded.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I already have so many ideas, so Louisa Levy, if you need some ideas, hit me up. I got you.
I will call out Brett Goldstein because I just watched Office Romance with J-Lo and Brett Goldstein. I would love to see his take on How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days spinoff or whatever, and that kind of comedy. The whole, the shrinking kind of esque, the Ted Lasso esque, which I know means nothing to you because you didn't watch it. But
I saw some episodes of Ted Lasso, so I understand a little bit of what you're saying.
yeah, that kind of comedy, you know what I mean? The kind of comedy where it's just you say outrageous things that are still acceptable in 2026. You know what
I think this movie was mainly acceptable for 2026. Oh, I just lost my AirPod.
Yeah. I think this movie didn't have as many. This movie was more cringe as to what a person would do in a relationship, less controversial about what they said. It was more so, obviously, it's this girl who's doing outrageous things, but
I shared on my Instagram, I think it was like a couple days ago, and I'll post the image here for our viewers to see. It was like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days 2026 version. And I would love to hear if our viewers agree with this post, considering we've talked about it with Jenna, our guest, and you and I have been talking about it the whole episode. Like, are these things equally transferable to the things that she did?
Yeah. And I want to know from our viewers if they can see, if they could swap out either Matthew McConaughey or Kate Hudson, one of the two, who would it be and why?
No.
I just want to know. I want to know what that would do to the movie.
They made the movie. Princess Sophia made the movie.
Could you imagine if J-Lo played Kate Hudson's character?
No.
Could you imagine if, like, Natalie Portman played her character?
No.
No, okay.
No.
This is obviously for Missy.
No, I'm sorry, I will die on this hill. This is my movie. This and 50 First Dates. I will go to war for these two movies.
How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days or Off Campus, Missy?
On that note, I want to just say, when I got my dog, because I need to say this, when I got my dog, when I was rescuing Benny, the one thing that one of the biggest things I wanted, or I loved about him, was that his name was Benny, and I could then say to him all the time, Benny boo boo, boo boo boo, boo boo boo. So
why don't we
Benny
start off the podcast with that? Missy.
Benny boo boo, you want to come say hi? Come here, Benny boo boo.
Come here. Benny boo boo.
Say hi, Benny boo boo, boo boo, boo boo boo. Boo, boo, boo.
Let's give off Benny Boo Boo vibes.
Well, on that note, Benny Boo 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 and I are going to say bye, and we'll see you next week for another episode.
Yes, let us know, peeps. But we have a good episode for the next couple of weeks. We're stacked. Mm-hmm. So let us know.
Go, Benny Boo Boo.
And I think How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days is free still on Pluto TV. And so if you have a couple of hours to kill,
and you want to watch the greatest rom-com of all time, do it.